Hold on, this is all we've ever known. Who are you to pass judgment? It's times like these I have fallen on my knees. Well, no more. This is all we've ever known.
Okay, so this is actually a wonderful question. My first ever day in the band. It happened really bizarrely, actually, me joining the band. I used to do a lot of YouTube covers and stuff, and I say a lot. I did a handful of YouTube covers, and this was before Mallory Knox blew up. But I covered their song Oceans, and they reposted it, and through that was how the guys saw me. So I remember getting a phone call from Drew, and they invited me up to this very building, into one of those practice rooms, and it was just myself, Drew, and Rob, the two guitarists, and we just jammed out acoustic, and that was my first day. That was when they were like, we'd love you to join the band. But I guess the first proper day, which is something I only realized when we got here, was it's been about 3 years almost to the day that we played our first ever show in the same room that we're playing tonight. So that's a very lovely and humbling feeling, because we opened for some of our friends, A Loss for Words, on the tour that they were doing then, and 3 years later we're headlining, which is lovely. It's so amazing, and it literally just sold out as well. So we're over the moon. The dude who opened that first show was like an acoustic act called Beaumont, which is our good friend Spencer, and they're on tour with us now as well. So it's kind of weird how the universe works in that sort of way. It's a really nice homage to, I guess, where we've come from. Okay, basically, it can get a little intimate in the van. Especially on long drives, you hit that kind of 6-7 hour mark, and everyone starts to get a bit cabin fever and a bit restless. We've never ever gotten to the point where we're at each other's throats or anything like that, purely because we're aware of kind of everyone's a bit on edge at that point. People need a toilet, you're stuck in traffic or whatever. So we try and do what we can to raise spirits and keep people in good vibes. So that day we had an absolute monster drive. We were going from, I think it was Southampton to Glasgow, which was just like a brutal journey. So we figured we'd put on Lord of the Rings and make our own drinking game for it. So we laid out a set of rules, and the rules are hilarious. I can't remember all of them, but it was like, anytime Gandalf says something wise, you got to drink. Anytime anyone references the strength of men, anytime there's a lineage reference, anytime there's a close-up of the ring, which happens a lot. We watched the second movie. I don't know if you've seen The Two Towers. There's a lot of arrows fired in that, and unfortunately, one of our rules was anytime anyone shoots a bow. We were absolutely wasted that day. I don't think we got a definitive winner. I think really we were all winners and losers in the same breath. Really, we all kind of stumbled out of the van, and blessing the guy who was putting us up, just the look on that guy's face. We must have looked in absolute state, because we had all given ourselves Lord of the Rings characters as well. So the aim of the game was to stay in character, which, after half a bottle of some nasty spirit, it's very hard to stay on that focus. But we try and do stuff like that all the time, just because A, it's fun and it passes the time, but it's a good bonding time for all of us as well. We're all just really good mates, and we're weird as hell. We don't try and be cool or pretend to be something we're not. We just have a good time doing what we love doing. Being weird in the van is definitely a good way to pass the time. I think we all differ in this sense. I'm a country boy at heart, so I love big open spaces, tranquility, stuff like that. I like the hustle and bustle of the city, but not all the time. My ideal day would be, actually, today could have been my ideal day. We were driving back from Scotland this morning, and I was asleep in the van, and I woke up, and we were at the service station, and I got out, bleary-eyed. I walked into this Costa coffee, and I got myself a soy latte, obviously. I might have to cave and down. I try and avoid the coffee giants where possible, but sometimes it's not particularly feasible. So on that next time that I happen to be like, I've got to have a Costa, I'll try that out. So I've ordered my coffee and stuff, and I glance out the window, and the view honestly was like, I can't even capture how magical it was in words. It was breathtaking. It was this massive, expansive lake with the hills rolling in the background. The sun was beaming through the clouds, like leaving rays everywhere. That was beautiful. So I think my ideal day would probably just be in a shack somewhere with my friends, some guitars, and just enjoying the country. I think that would be awesome. That's a really hard question. There have been some awesome moments in my life. I try not to, I know this sounds weird, but about 7 months ago, I quit time. I don't wear a watch. I don't have any clocks in my house. I started getting very interested in the idea that from a very three-dimensional perspective, time is just linear, right? You have a past, a present, and a future. But really, that's just a man-made way of measuring now, or lots of moments. So I try and live my life just moment at a moment and not worry about the past or worry about what's going to happen in the future, because that's distracting me from being right now. And if that's all that can ever exist, I want to honor that moment. So I guess to aptly answer your question, there's a number of moments that have happened in my life which have been incredible. One of which was stepping out on stage at Slam Dunk a couple of years ago. It was the first time we've ever played anything like that. And the response we had absolutely blew us away. It was like nothing else. I can't explain that feeling. It was, again, very humbling. Last night was incredible. We were in Glasgow, and there was like 20, 30 kids there. The room wasn't sold out by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact that I essentially went to a different country, and there was a whole bunch of people that I'd never met before that knew the words to something I wrote in my bedroom when I was just sad one day, is an incredible feeling. That's something that I don't think will ever get old. Stuff like that. I don't know, I just enjoy life. I think I strive to make every day the best day of my life, That was mad, because we recorded the album summer of 2013, and then by the summer of 2014 we still hadn't released it yet. So we were getting very on edge about is this going to be are we going to be able to release this? We were really struggling with we could have just put it out, but in terms of making the impact that we wanted to make, we wanted to do it as professional as possible. And with no label backing and stuff, obviously that takes your own money into account. So there was a period where we thought we weren't going to be able to put the album out. So I think leading up into the actual release, we were so focused on just the idea of getting this album out that we completely lost sight of the fact that we were releasing an album in the first place. So I think none of us really anticipated it. It was like waking up on Christmas Day and forgetting that it was Christmas Day until you walk downstairs and everyone's there. So it was only really until the response kind of started coming in that it really sank in, and we were like, oh my God, this is mental. It was an amazing day, because I feel like everything that we had worked for and really hard for up until that point suddenly paid off. Because, given that it was 18 months that it took us to put out this album, I guess there's we love those songs. We've all grown up in terms of writing since we wrote those songs, but they still mean a lot to us. But there is a part of you throughout that long period of time where no one else has heard it, that you start to doubt it, are these songs good enough, and all of that. But that just kind of fizzled into nothing when we started hearing what the kids who really wanted to hear the record were saying about it. So it was amazing. It was such a wicked day. I can't describe how amazing that felt. That's pretty subjective. I think everyone has their ups and downs. Towards the latter end of my teens, I struggled really bad with anxiety and depression. As to most people of kind of our generation, I think that is very much at fault of modern culture. But it's obviously being spun like it's a very individual thing, I have anxiety disorder. well, so does every fucking, excuse me. So does everyone else. It's just some people deal with it better than others. So I guess like kind of the latter end of my teens was tricky. I fell into quite an abusive relationship with drugs. I spent about 18 months to 2 years of my life kind of being a bit lost and not really knowing where I was. Unfortunately, some friends of mine pulled me out of it, and I thank them so much for doing that, because I love life now and I love being alive, and I'm really glad that I've come from that, because now when I meet people at shows who essentially it's like looking into the past at me. The way I hear some of these kids talk is how I felt and how I spoke about things. So it's really nice that I have the knowledge of where that came from and where I'm at now, to try and just, offer them some kind of comfort or just reassurance of being like, it's all right. Like, life gets poo sometimes, but yeah, it is wonderful, and you just got to try and be the change you want to see, be that happy vibe, because if you're that, then the people around you are going to be that, and then in turn that's going to make you like that. So I guess like it's kind of like a self-perpetual feedback loop of happiness. Most nerve-wracking day. That's a good question. When was I most nervous? I tell you when I get most nervous is like I love talking to people, like guys, girls, gay, straight, black, white. Like I love people. People are great. When I really get, I love going on stage. That's like an amplified version of being able to talk to people. When I get most nervous is when I think I'm attracted to someone. When that's the part of me that I'm a lot less confident about. Because I think there's always a part of you that like strives to, you want to be noticed by that person, right? You want them to notice you. So you then start doing things out of character, I guess, to try and impress them, which is bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, my mouth is so awful. I try and calm it down. That's silly. Like, no one should be doing that, because if they don't like you for who you are, then, well, they don't deserve you. But yeah, I get most nervous talking to girls that I'm attracted to, because I don't know, I get very like fumbly with my words, and I don't know what to do. So, it hasn't happened for a while, but I'm sure it will happen again in the future. Actually, kind of, synchronicity is great. So leading on from actually how I answered the last question, I tried really hard through my teens. I struggled a lot with my own identity. I kept my ego very present in the driving seat of my life. So I had this image of what I was and how people perceive me, which again is ludicrous, because that's not you, this is you. And I think the ego is an important thing to keep within you, but let it take a backseat. Don't let that be the driving force of what is you. So I think, throughout my teens, I was very egoic, and I guess to kind of answer that question, like that was when I felt I fitted in, sort of, because I was trying so hard to fit in and be like everyone else. And I think that's probably where my dysfunction came from up here, because I was refusing to accept me for me. Now, I think, is when I fit in the most. I accept my weirdness. Like, I'm not an average guy. Like, I do what I want. I'm pretty effeminate. I'm pretty outrageous. I don't know. I just like to be me. I don't want to force anything. And fortunately, I have people around me that really accept me for who I am. And I think that's the most important thing. So, in terms of those songs, whilst in when I wrote Monsters, I'd like to say I fit in and I really belong. Now I really can say that, because I'm me, and I'm not going to change that. It's insane. It's mental. The only thing I can really say to that is, if our music has affected you in any kind of way, thank you. Because as I say, myself and Drew, when we write songs, sometimes we write together, sometimes we write songs separately. But just as artists, we write because we have something to say, we have something inside us that we feel we need to get out. So the fact that someone can relate to that and it helps them is an amazing feeling. And I meet like kids every now and then who are like, oh, this song changed my life, thank you so much. And whilst it's so lovely that they're thanking me for giving that to them, I want to thank them because they were open enough to be touched by someone else's art. And ultimately, like, that's how I feel about music and all kinds of art. It's just an expression of the person inside. And I mean, it really upsets me when I see people making music to be cool or to be famous, because it's a sacred art form and it means something. And it's lovely to see it affecting people so organically. To be honest with you, I think we're all heroes, or at least we all have the capacity to be heroes. It makes me really sad sometimes when I reflect on modern culture and how we live, because we operate on such an eye for an eye basis. Whereas really, if we just started being nice to each other and helping each other, the world would be a much better place, and then we would all be heroes. There are guys out there and girls out there who are doing fabulous things for no recognition. They are just doing things to help people. And that to me is what a hero is being selfless and trying to sort the rubbish out of this world and try and make it a better place. We stayed at a friend of ours in Glasgow last night and walked into her kitchen, and she had a little plaque on the wall that was said, "Be the reason someone smiles today." And I think that's lovely because, I mean, smiles are infectious. You can't help it. If someone smiles at you in the street, you can't help but just, even if it's a little grimace, like, you can't help but just, crack a little smile. So yeah, for me, that's what modern day heroes are, and you see them all the time. I heard this lovely story. It was like fairly local to me. We have a bookstore, which, by the way, I think is awesome. We are the whole Kindle hype, I don't get at all. There's something so magical about holding a book and feeling a book. Support your local libraries. And books are great as well. I love learning. But so there's a bookstore local to us, and it's run by one person every single day. And I can't even remember what time of year it was, but it was absolutely manic in there. And I heard this story of this guy that walked past and saw the cashier. She was trying really hard to be positive and helpful. But you know what it's like in retail. A lot of the times the customers treat stuff like they don't exist or they're inferior. So this guy saw this lady was having a bad time, so he went across the street and he just bought her a plant, this really beautiful plant, and just gave it to her and said, "I hope you have a good day." And she turned around and was like, "I am now." Those two may never have seen or spoken to each other ever again, but that doesn't matter because he went out of his way just to make someone else feel better. And that's what a hero is to me. Good Days is, I think, the record as a whole touches on very similar kind of vibes. It's very much like the growing up album, that was the transitionary period. I think that we all kind of grew up from being, I guess, essentially children to, I don't know if you can give us the label of adults now. We're still stupid as hell. But yeah, it was just kind of about growing up. But as I mentioned before, I kind of had a bit of a troubled teenage years through no one's fault but my own. But yeah, I would overthink things, and I would have a lot of trouble with that. And Good Days, I think, is just about turning that on its head. I think it was really like there's a point in the song just after the guitar solo where I do the chorus hook, but the lyrics are kind of flipped on its head. The hook throughout the song is I have my good days like everyone else, but it's my bad days that are something else. And I flipped that on its head towards the end of the song, because that was kind of like the realization moment, because everyone's going to have their bad days, but make your good days something else, because when you're in a good mood, capitalize on that, spread that joy, spread that love. That song was really about a reflection on, I guess, the last 5-6 years of my life, being like, it's a bad place. I thought that nothing was going to get better, and then I realized that I'm the only one that can take control of my own happiness. So you got to take control of that, take charge, and then spread it to other people.